Am I less sharp than I used to be? Somebody who's, well, certainly at least as sharp as he used to be. John Cowan, kia ora, good morning. How are you?
Yes, I thought you were going to, introduce me as case in point. Look at this declining wreck of a man, John Cowan, who's
Can
going
I
to
can,
talk
can I
about
just
his experience of mental decline.
if he can remember. Now,
Yeah.
can I just give a thought though for people who are more senior in years? It's
Mm,
okay for these young people to remember stuff because they've only been around about 20 minutes. For older people such as yourself,
mm.
you've got quite a few years to put through the storage and filing system, so it's no surprise if things go missing occasionally, right?
That's right. I mean, it is a very common anxiety these days. Every time I find that I can't remember a password on my computer, or I can't locate my car keys, or I find myself wandering in my pajamas around the next door neighbor's backyard, I start to wonder whether or not there's something gone wrong with my brain.
Yeah.
And if you probably have a Facebook account which throws up memories,
Oh yes.
posts from years ago. And usually it comes flooding back to me what the event is, but
Yeah.
other times I look at it and think, is that me? I can't remember that event
We,
at all. Going through photo albums and no recollection at all. And so it is natural to wonder, oh dear, is this the beginning? How prevalent is dementia? And I looked up some stats, and aged over 60, it's about 4%.
okay.
Over 80, it's about 14%. Interestingly, our figures are about three times higher than the United States.
Okay.
I think that could be all the demented ones are sort of off in the White House, and you're not noticing that. No. Scratch that. But we do have quite a lot. But it does mean that even by the time you're in your 90s, the vast majority of people still have their marbles.
Yeah.
And even those over 100, the majority haven't got dementia. So look, that's the fact. So be comfort yourself that the numbers are still on your side.
Yeah, and hey,
And
you and I joke about this, but actually sometimes maybe the humor doesn't help. That you kind of sign for it. You take on a presumption that as I get older, not only will I look less good in the mirror, things will start falling off of me, and my brain's going to turn to soup as well. But this is not well. Some of those things are a given, but not
yeah,
necessarily all of them. And it's good to put those statistics in place rather than presume the worst, I suppose.
for sure. But let's balance that with the fact that there is benign mental decline as you get older.
Okay.
And by that, I mean it's stuff that isn't indicating that you've got dementia, but it's the fact that it is harder to recall certain facts or appointments, and you do need reminders sometimes. And that's not indicating that there's anything particularly sinister going on between your ears. It's just that you are getting older. I have one old friend who just decided, he says, I'm deciding that my memory is just as good. It's just that my recall is slower.
Okay.
I now think of my brain as when I have to remember something as like putting in a request at the library for a book. I'll ask myself, what is that fact? What is that name? What is
Yeah.
that thing I have to do? And then I relax, and down the chute will come the answer.
Mm.
Sometimes quickly, sometimes a bit slower, but it
Yeah.
just means that it's still all there, but it is just a bit slower in recalling. And so that is quite normal, and it's not indicative of the fact that you have got some sinister dementia going on. By the way, with dementia, people still do live happy and productive lives with
Yeah.
good support. And the people that are doing the support need support. There are increasing numbers of drugs and medications that can at least relieve some of the symptoms that can be symptoms of dementia.
Yeah.
And my wife runs a mental health organization that has a dementia daycare where people are stimulated, and that seems to maintain functioning and living at home for a lot longer. So, look, it's not news that anyone wants to get,
Yeah.
but if you've been diagnosed with dementia, you have my sympathy because it's a
Hmm.
big thing to try and handle. but for quite a long time, you can expect to have, a full and happy life, and with the assistance and help that you're going to increasingly need. It's
Um,
not news that anyone wants, but I mean, it will be tolerable.
Maybe it is because I am a gentleman of a certain age, but there's a range of pop-up ads that appear in my social media feeds for here's ways to tell that you're absolutely starting to lose it, and it links through to somebody that wants to sell me something. There are
Yes.
different things, though, that we can do to keep ourselves mentally sharp. I'm just hoping and praying, John, that that's not Wordle. Because
No.
or Sudoku or worse than that. If that's what it takes to stay sharp, I'm happy to give up now.
Could I just say that one of the key things that seems to stave off dementia is, first of all, having parents that didn't have it,
Okay. Yeah.
but also sleep. So there you go, having a snooze, sleeping, getting to bed a bit earlier, that seems to really help.
Yeah.
Adopting look, it's the same prescription on the same pad for just about all these things. It's living a healthy lifestyle, getting the exercise, being stimulated, being socially connected, all those sorts of things really, really help. But I am interested in this because, well, first of all, I have a brain, but I used to work with brains.
Hmm.
Years ago, I used to work in neurophysiology, and so I've always been intrigued on it. And I just want to lay to rest a few myths that people are
Okay.
always trotting out.
Yep.
And one of them is that we only use 10% of our brain. Now, this came from a guy called Wilder, somebody, oh no, I can't remember the name of the psychologist early in the 20th
Just
century who just
just
made this little
put the
comment.
request in and it'll come down the chute eventually, John.
Or better than that, I've got it on a screen here that I'm trying
Ah,
to
look at
get
that.
that uh, yeah, he just said that there is more ability than we use.
Okay.
And the guy who wrote How to Make Friends and Influence People,
Yeah.
Dale Carnegie.
Yes.
Look at that. I was able to remember his name.
Look at that, even
He
without the
turned that
prompt.
into a sort of an absolute fact. He says, like, we only use 10% of our brains.
Yeah.
No, we don't. It was also, people didn't understand what a lot of the brain did, and they called them silent areas. We now know that all those bits of your brain are working. So,
Yeah.
yes, we could all use more of our thinking power, but no, it's not true that we only use 10% of our brain.
Hmm.
Another myth is that it's like we're passively videotaping everything that happens around us. We just have to find the right cue, and those memories will come flooding back.
Yeah.
And this was because when they were doing early brain surgery with people awake, which is a fascinating thing in itself. I used to watch that.
Yeah.
You'd stick a needle in somewhere and people would have a vivid memory from their childhood or something. And people had this idea that everything is stored. We just need to release it. But no, it seems that memory is far more like a recreation of facts
Okay.
rather than a recall of facts, which is why memories change.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting thing to remember when people are certain that, when you get together for a family reunion and somebody remembers something vividly in one way and you remember it vividly the other, just have a little grace and realize that memory is a creative process and
Yeah.
memories do change. It's not like replaying a tape. But those are perhaps two of the most, um, prevalent myths about the brain. Same with left brain, right brain stuff. You hear people going on about that. And yes, there may be some differences between the left and the right brain, but you've got a whopping great connection between the two. So your brain tends to work as an integrated whole.
And if you don't have a connection between the two, you've got other problems.
That's an interesting thing because they used to cut it sometimes to relieve epilepsy.
Exactly.
Fascinating thing. Read that up on Google sometime. Split brain experiments. But hey, look, I love talking about brains, but could I just say, look after your brains, give lots of sleep, don't eat too bad, eat well, look after your rest of your health because your general health will impact your brain as well, and just realize that chances are I'll be able to use this brain for as long as the rest of me lasts too.
Hey,
So
that is good news indeed, as long as I don't have to do Wordle. John, that is good news from my point of view. Life's too short, just saying. John Cowan, appreciate your wisdom and the use of your brain today. Thanks very much for joining us.
thank you. Cheers.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.